Welcome to episode 13 of AI Solutions, the Pathway to Profit. Today, we're talking about something I call the consultant symbiosis. Look, I've seen this go wrong more times than I can count. A company writes a massive check to an external AI firm, expecting a miracle. 6 months later, they've got a complex black box that nobody on their internal team understands, and the consultants are long gone. The project becomes expensive digital shelfware. This episode is the antidote to that. We're going to walk through how to build a real partnership, one where it's not just a transaction. It's about ensuring that when the engagement ends, your team is smarter, more capable, and fully in control of the solution you pay for. We're not just buying a tool, we're absorbing expertise. So, let's talk about why you'd even bring in an external consultant. The easy answer is we don't have a data scientist on staff. And sure, that's often a starting point, but I find the real value lies much deeper. Think about it. Your team is brilliant, but they live and breathe your business every day. They have institutional biases. A great consultant walks in with fresh eyes, able to question the assumptions you might not even see anymore. You might also find you need to accelerate. Let's say your project needs hyper-specialized knowledge in natural language processing for legal contracts. Finding and hiring that perfect full-time person can take months. A consultant brings that expertise in on day one. And finally, what I like to see is using consultants to de-risk innovation. You can rent elite expertise to prove a concept and build a business case before you commit to building out an entire internal team. It's a strategic trial run, not just plugging a skills gap. Okay, so you're ready to find that partner. Before we look at the green flags, let's talk about what I've learned to avoid. There are a few red flags that I watch for in those initial conversations. The first is when a consultant leads with their proprietary tech stack instead of your business problem. The tool should serve the goal, not the other way around. Another thing I always do is ask about past project ROI. If you get vague answers about delivering significant efficiencies without hard numbers, be cautious. A great partner measures their impact. I also look for a clear, documented methodology. If they can't explain how they'll get from A to B, that's a warning. But the biggest red flag for me, it's any reluctance to engage deeply with your internal subject matter experts. A firm that isn't eager to learn from your team isn't a partner. They're a vendor trying to sell you a black box you'll never understand. So, on the flip side, what are the green flags? What I always look for is a potential partner who comes into the first meeting and asks way more questions than they answer. They aren't there to pitch their solution. They're there to diagnose your specific business problem. I like to see a formal, structured discovery phase built into their proposal. It shows they have a repeatable methodology for learning before they build. You might also find that the best partners have incredibly transparent pricing models. No mysteries. And when you check their references, and you absolutely should, listen for words like collaboration, partnership, and knowledge transfer. The goal is to find a consultant who feels less like a hired gun and more like a teacher. They should be just as invested in upskilling your team as they are in delivering the final model. All right, you've picked a great partner. The temptation is to just throw them the keys and say, go. But what I've found is that the success of a project is often determined before the consultant even walks in the door. I always focus on 3 pieces of internal groundwork. First, I get incredibly crisp on the business problem. I literally write down the answer to what does a win look like? Is it a specific number, a percentage, a new capability? Second, I identify an internal project champion, not just a point of contact, but a real advocate who can navigate internal politics and unblock resources. And finally, the most crucial part, you might find that simply answering the questions, what data do we have, where is it, and what's its quality, is the most valuable exercise you can do. It saves so much time and sets the stage for a real partnership from day one. So now you have your partner and your internal prep is done. Let's talk about that first official meeting. I don't even call it a kickoff. I see it as an alignment session. What I always do here is establish the operating rhythm immediately. Are we doing weekly syncs on Tuesdays? Is there a shared Slack channel for the day-to-day? Getting that cadence locked in prevents so much friction later. Then we go around the room and confirm roles, not just titles. Who is the final decision maker for scope changes? Who is the go-to subject matter expert for data questions? You might find that explicitly defining these roles dissolves that client versus vendor feeling right from the start. The goal I set is simple. No one leaves that room without knowing exactly who is responsible for what. It transformed the entire dynamic into a single, unified team focused on the same outcome. Now, let's get to the real core of the symbiosis. And frankly, it's the part I see get overlooked the most. The consultant shouldn't just deliver code. They must deliver understanding. So, what I do is mandate knowledge transfer from day one. It's non-negotiable and gets built right into the statement of work. This can take a few forms. I always require detailed, human-readable documentation, not just code comments. You might find that scheduling regular show-and-tell sessions, where their engineers walk your tech team through their progress, is incredibly effective. For more hands-on work, I like to see pair programming sessions. The goal is that when the engagement ends, there's a formal handover and training, ensuring your team doesn't just have the keys to the new tool. They have the full user manual and the mechanics guide. I like to think of it this way. The consultant has the AI brain, but your company's data is the lifeblood. One is useless without the other. A data scientist can see patterns, but they can't see the story behind the numbers. They don't know that a weird spike in your data wasn't an error, but the result of a viral marketing campaign. Your team holds that critical context. So what I always do is embed my subject matter experts directly with the consulting team. This isn't just an occasional Q&A. It's a working partnership. You might find that pairing your top salesperson with their data scientist is the key to unlocking feature engineering they'd never discover alone. Your expert is the one who can look at an anomaly and say, oh, that's not noise. That's when our competitor's factory shut down. It's this fusion of expertise that turns raw data into a real strategic asset. One thing I've learned is that you can't manage an AI project like a traditional software build. It's not a straight line from A to B. It's a process of constant discovery. That's why I always abandon the idea of a single big bang release. What I like to see is an agile rhythm with frequent small deliverables. Maybe it's a baseline model in 2 weeks, then a feature refinement 2 weeks after that. This way, we're constantly learning and testing our assumptions. To manage this, what I do is establish a joint steering committee right away. This isn't just a status update meeting. It's a strategic group with both client and consultant decision makers that can handle scope changes and strategic pivots collaboratively. You might find that when everyone is steering the ship together, you can navigate those inevitable changes without any drama. Okay, let's get real for a moment. No matter how perfect your plan is, hurdles will pop up. A model's accuracy will plateau, a key data source will prove unreliable, or a deadline will start to feel aspirational. The absolute first thing I do in these moments is drain the drama out of the room. The goal isn't to find who to blame, it's to find a solution. You might find that establishing a blame-free culture from day one is the single most important factor. So, what's the playbook? What I like to see is using formal milestone reviews not just as check-ins, but as decision points. We look at the data, we look at our progress, and we ask the hard question, is our current approach still the right one? This gives everyone permission to be honest. It's about making a data-driven decision to pivot, not an emotional one to push forward on a failing path. It's not admitting failure, it's intelligently course-correcting together. All right, you've reached the finish line. The model is built, the tool is live. But a truly successful engagement doesn't just end, it graduates with honors. What I insist on is a comprehensive, almost ceremonial handover. This isn't just getting a link to a code repository. It's a full transfer of all code, models, and clean, human-readable documentation. Then, what I like to see is a hypercare period written into the contract. For a few weeks post-launch, the consultant is on standby. You might find this is invaluable for catching those little real-world issues you couldn't have predicted. But the most crucial step is the final retrospective. What I do is bring both teams together one last time to ask, what went well? What would we do differently? The goal is to document those lessons, ensuring your team is not just equipped for this project, but for every AI initiative that comes next. So, as we wrap up, let's bring it all together. What I found is that a successful consultant partnership really stands on four pillars. It starts with that meticulous internal preparation we talked about, doing your homework before they even arrive. Then, it's about choosing a true partner, someone who feels more like a teacher than a vendor. What I always insist on is the third pillar, mandating knowledge transfer, making it a non-negotiable part of the contract. And finally, it's about active day-to-day collaboration. The goal here is simple. You're not just buying a solution, you're absorbing expertise into your own organization. Now that you've done that, a new challenge emerges. You've partnered to build this powerful AI tool, but how do you prove its value to the C-suite? That's exactly where we're headed next time. Join us for episode 14, Measuring AI ROI, the CFO's Guide to Justifying Investment. If you find this information useful, we would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe this channel to help others find us. If there are subjects you would like covered, please add in the comments section, and we will include it in future episodes. Thanks for watching.